Hello, Pamela Aaralyn. This is one of the many videos in the Raw Uncut series that I've been doing now for about 8 months. And that is when you, as a member of my spiritual community, get a chance to come on over and ask some questions that you really want answers to in regards to spirituality and being human, all emotional topics, all spiritual topics, all topics you want to know. And it's just giving me a chance to step out of the role that you perceive me as, as your teacher, and just give you a chance to understand that I'm right there in this journey with you. I'm right there, amongst everything that you're growing within and growing towards spiritually. Um, I'm right there with you. I'm learning from you. I'm learning with you. Um, I consider myself a member of what is increasingly being called the authenticity movement. I mean, it's sort of a movement that is spreading in spiritual communities. Speaking of authenticity, you get all these chances in these kind of videos to see my real life, and my iPad's going nuts, so I'm going to find a way to turn it off right now because I don't know how to silence all of these notifications. I'm not a technical whiz. Authenticity alert. So today's Raw Uncut video series is going to be about authenticity in any role that you perceive yourself in. And it's also about breaking barriers and getting out of perceived roles, because when people say the authenticity movement, the whole point, in my opinion, from my perspective of that movement, is that we release definitions and we disidentify from roles. So this is not me as your teacher today. That's not something that we're going to be talking about today to that full extent, because the authenticity movement helps you understand how all of us are on the same page. We'll talk a little bit about what that means for spiritual teachers, and what that means for, perceived students, and what that means in relationships, and what that means in all of those perceived definitions. But ultimately speaking, we're one. We're on the same team. We're learning from each other. There is no higher than, lesser than, teacher, student. The authenticity movement means that we're flowing in authenticity for exactly what we feel and exactly who we are, with love and respect towards other human beings at all times. So let's talk about what that means from my perspective and what that doesn't mean from my perspective. And I'm also going to be answering all your questions. And for those of you who want to get in on the Raw Uncut video series that I've been doing for about 8 months now, if you join my spiritual community at facebook.com/groups/Aura Reader, that's me. I'm Pamela Aaralyn. You can find me here on YouTube. You can find me at aurareader.com, but generally speaking, this is where I answer the questions over on my Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Aura Reader. So that's where you go, to ask these kind of questions. With that being said, let's get going. I'm just going to be going through the whole list of questions that you've put here in our community. The first question is, to what extent can I be authentic? Is it okay to react authentically, knowing that I am actually acting on behalf of authenticity and not just being a complete a-hole? I love you. You know who you are, you who wrote this question. I even responded to her and I said, I love that question. So to what extent you can be authentic really completely depends upon you. You give yourself permission to define what level of authenticity you can be in at any given moment, because much like everything in your spiritual practice, authenticity is something that you grow towards. I did not start out this way. For me personally, it took 16 years to come out from underneath the rock professionally and spiritually in this community, and I was hiding. I was born and raised in a Southern Baptist type of environment that was very limiting and restricting, and I hid. And actually, this is full authenticity here, I worked for psychic companies and started out my authenticity movement there, but I wasn't being fully authentic, because if my family members would ask me, or the teachers at my children's schools, or people around me, I was raised in the Bible Belt, so when people around me asked, what do you do, I would say I'm a life coach. And I actually went out and got a life coach certification and spent 6 months of my life making sure that I was certified to do that so that it would not be a lie. And I thought that was authenticity. So I did not start out fully authentic. It was scary. And that was the only level of authenticity that I could manage to function in, because I was so terrified. Authenticity means that you're facing your fear, and facing fears means moving into a flow of who you actually are at any given point in time. So if you are not okay being fully authentic, it doesn't make you a liar. Just make it honest to the extent that you fully can, that you're fully comfortable with. It doesn't mean that you're out there fully spilling your life out there if you're not ready for that. Being authentic would mean someone asks you a question and you're not ready to answer it. And I still say this quite often. If someone asks me a really personal question and I'm just really not sure if I trust that individual, and I'm using my levels of intuitive discernment and source within me to let me know that maybe I don't want to be sharing that very personal information or to give my vulnerable aspects of my soul to that being, then I might say, I am sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but I don't feel comfortable sharing that question with you, sharing that answer with you. I'm feeling I'm a little vulnerable right now. Authenticity means not just blobbing out there, not just throwing everything out there like spaghetti on the wall. Um, Not initially, at least. Authenticity gets to mean what you decide it means at any given point in time in your spiritual evolution and in your spiritual growth. So for me personally, it did not mean that. I had to grow in that direction, and then 16 years later, I'm like, I can't stand hiding this anymore. I can't stand it. And then I moved to Utah, and I was in this tiny rural Mormon community. And they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a life coach. It worked for about 3 years. I got so sick of it because it felt like a lie. And I'm like, I actually talked to Jesus, and I talked to some extraterrestrial collective groups. I see auras, and I unblock chakra systems, and I'm a channeled person. I channel things. That is my main gift. And yes, it is a spiritual gift. And then I started to understand that there was no shame in that. So when you begin to release shame in that, you can step forward. The more you do any particular processes, or if you don't need one, that's fine. I'm not one who fully believes that you always need processes to do this. But in any way, shape, or form that you can remove shame from your core beliefs and negative imprints and from your life in general, that is the best way to begin, in my opinion, from my perspective, in order to begin being authentic. So to what extent, to answer your question, that's fully up to you. Is it okay to react authentically? Absolutely. But in my opinion, it should be fully respecting the other person's space with you. What is that person's space of authenticity? You can feel it without having to ask. And if they're not in that space to handle your authentic reaction, it doesn't mean you need to taper who you authentically are in your reaction. However, please don't be an a-hole. That's never okay. Respect towards humanity, sharing levels of respect and unconditional love provides them that vulnerability, that space to be vulnerable with you when you say, hey, I'm kind of just not really vibing with you. I'm not really agreeing with what you're saying right now, but I love you and I respect what you're saying. Can you please help me understand it? Those kind of loving expressions provides an open space for the person to be authentic with you. So please don't jump out the gate being an a-hole. Please don't jump out the gate. Like, for example, if someone has a question to you and you want to respond, or someone has a statement to you and you want to respond and you're really feeling triggered by it, try taking a few breaths and stepping outside. Take a few breaths, disidentify from the emotion that is attached to the trigger. Because if what they said triggered you, it's good to step into a 4D perspective by just stepping outside of yourself and asking yourself, what might be the reasons that that person would make that statement or would ask that question that triggered me to feel this way? How are they a reflection of something within me that I possibly need to address? What are they reflecting to me? What am I reflecting to them? Go into a space where you begin to ask yourself some questions before you open your mouth. Take a few deep breaths. Sometimes even if you need to walk away, if the space of respect within authenticity is honored, you can say to them, you know what, I need a little bit of a break to process what is occurring and what I'm feeling before I react to what you said to me. that might be a completely authentic space. If you feel like you're going to jump into being a complete a-hole and you're not operating from a space of love and respect, that's not really the way that authenticity, in my perspective, opens a space for healing. If authenticity is not providing a full space of peaceful conflict resolution, like at least for peaceful conflict resolution, it doesn't mean you're going to resolve it. But if you're not making the other person feel safe so that conflict resolution can at least be a possibility, then your authenticity is turning into a-wholeness. It's really quite that simple, from the way that I view it, at least. So I hope that that answered your question. Let's take the next question. The question is, how do I deal with someone who sees my authentic self and loses trust and respect for me? My question to you would be, why do you want to deal with someone who loses complete trust and respect for you? What is in that for you? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't. There is no should, there is no shouldn't. Okay? But I would like for you to dig deeper into yourself to really understand why you want to deal with someone who does not honor, respect, and trust you when you are showing your authentic self. Does this mean that there's something about you that you could possibly stand to go deeper within because this is a reflection of you not trusting and respecting yourself? That is a question I would have for you and for anyone who asks me that question. But in terms of how to deal with someone who sees your authentic self and, they're just being completely disrespectful, it might be a possible thing to consider and an authentic thing to consider if you respond to them in a way that is loving and involves a boundary. This would be what I call a boundary for the purposes of self-love. And I did write a blog about how to specifically do this, and I call this the compliment sandwich, and that is not my term. That's actually been thrown around spiritual communities for years, but I love it, and I developed my own process within it. And how I like to do it is come to them from the space of love. Step one, say I love you, or formulate some compliment. If you don't know the person well, go towards a compliment instead of love. Compliment or bless them. Either way, I would start out with I love you, or I would start out with this is what I appreciate about you. That is a compliment. And then add what you want to say in terms of your boundary in the middle. And that would be like, okay, I love you. However, this is what I would like to address, and this is a concern that I have. Then you ask them a question. You don't say, can you do that for me? The third step in that would be, would you please consider my question? Would you please consider my request? It would mean a lot to me. And then I end it with gratitude. And then I would say, that would mean so much to me. Thank you so much for considering that. And then sometimes I will end it with I love you again, particularly if I'm very close to the person. So that is my tip for how to insert a loving boundary. And the reason why I would suggest that to you is because when you respond to a person who isn't being trusting or respectful to you and honoring your authentic self, and they're being a little disrespectful, that puts them in a space where it diffuses this bomb, this emotional triggering bomb that is occurring. It diffuses the trigger amongst the reflection of what is happening between you and that person so that peaceful conflict resolution can occur. Okay, you give them that space of trust and respect back. You become and you be what you would like to see from them towards you. That's how I would answer that question. So the second part of your question was how do I overcome self-shame and express the most difficult and secret part of myself? That's so beautiful, by the way. I love that question. Shame definitely is a core belief, sometimes attached to deeper negative imprints, that I definitely suggest an integration process. Like I said, I don't believe that everyone needs an integration process. It's up to you. For me, I'm kind of a 4D person, and I vary between advising someone to go straight into their triggers in 3D or just identifying in 4D, or if you're ready, go straight up to 5D and go into some transcendental meditation or some Kriya yoga. Either way, do what's good for you to get rid of core beliefs involving self-shame, eliminate the shame. And how you do that in the moment without having to go into a process is ask yourself, what do I have to be ashamed about? Don't say why. What do I have to be ashamed about? talk to your inner child. A quick little I am invocation might be advisable in this state, where you just kind of follow a deep pattern of breathing and invoke the I am and say, I invoke the I am in me to give my inner child permission to release shame and to be authentic and love who I am ashamed of. I love that part of me that I am ashamed of. That's the deepest thing that I can say to you right now, and the most authentic thing that has helped me in overcoming shame. I'm trying to deeply address in the moment, because when you can, facing these triggers of shame in the moment are really, really helpful. If you are in a moment and you're speaking with someone and you're suddenly feeling shame, or if you're out somewhere and you're suddenly feeling shame, go within and say, what do I stand to learn from this shame? And once you observe that, go back within and invoke the I am to try to love the part of you that is shaming you, because that's a self-critic thing. And I don't fully believe in elimination of the self-critic, by the way. We can get that right out of the way. I believe that the self-critic involves the ego, and is a very important part of our journey. So to delete the ego and to remove the inner critic and all of those things would be like deleting a very important part of something that could turn from shame to absolute confidence and empowerment, and just such a beautiful, authentic expression. So try, if you're going to do any processes, you can try any inner child work process. That's why I created the Aura Alchemy process, because it helps you get through the core belief of shame, and it asks your inner child, what would I rather feel instead? Um, as well as many other processes that involve alchemy. I love alchemical processes where you're involving light and sound and the I am invocation with shadow work. I love Teal Swan's process for how to heal the emotional body. I love The Work by Byron Katie. I love most of Dwayne Hartman's processes. I love my own or alchemy process. There's so many processes that you can go towards. But like I said, I don't believe in fully eliminating the inner critic. I believe that if you love the inner critic, which that's the one that's shaming you, and if you say, I invoke the I am in me to allow you to release shame because I love you, love now replaces shame. And then you start to think about, in that moment that you're feeling shameful, is there one thing that you can love about yourself? And I don't care how stupid you think it is, or how mundane, or how petty it might be. I went through a space where I completely hated my body for a long time, and I would be shaming myself if I was around someone much thinner than me. And I would say to myself, okay, I invoke the I am in me to give my inner child permission and my inner critic permission, because I do believe they're a little bit separate in their states of our being. I give my inner child permission and I give my inner critic permission to release shame. And then I would instate in that I am invocation, I would put in there, and I give my inner child and inner critic permission to love this about me. So I began to replace the feeling signature of shame with things that were close to love. And for those of you who are nowhere near that in your journey with self-love, go towards something that maybe is closer to self-love but not quite there, like maybe gratitude or appreciation or comfort, or just any little thing that's closer, towards self-love. So I would say, for example, some of the things I would say in those invocations would be, and I now invoke the I am in me to give my inner child and my inner critic permission to love my vocal tone. People like the tone of my voice, so I like it too. I give my inner child permission to love the part of me that is a compassionate listener. I give my inner child permission to love the part of me that loves all humans and that has excellent capacity to forgive. I'm a great forgiver. I love the part of me that does not judge. I love the part of me that has beautiful eyes. I love the part of me that, has a great singing voice. I love the part of me that's funny and witty. I love the part of me that picks out excellent nail color. I got pretty ridiculous about it. but those are the things. Some of them were big, but some of them were tiny. When I couldn't find anything, I would find something like, oh, I like my nail color today. That's the level of depression that I'm operating in. So the way to be authentic in that is to say, you know what? That's the only thing that I can say. I like my shirt today. Okay, go for it. Replace that shame with that. you know, um, Whatever it is that you can find. Okay, when you do that, you're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper in expressing the most secret parts of yourself. But in the other part of your question with how to overcome shame in order to express the most deep or secret part of yourself is discretion. First of all, ask yourself, who do you want to express this to? Start with your levels of intuitive discretion and discernment. Discernment is a beautiful spiritual gift, and I see so many people omit this in their spiritual processes where they're just like authentically throwing all these deep secret parts of themselves at the whole world. And when I was ready to go fully authentic, that is exactly what I did. And I expressed to the people that turned around and pulled me under because I had a fear of that. And that was my reflection. That was my secret fear, that I would become authentic and then the world would try to take me down. And guess what? That is exactly what happened. So with that being said, if you know that you have a particular, if you even have to ask yourself that question, why am I having problems expressing the deeper secret parts of myself? That means that you have a fear that if you do that, people are going to use that against you, that those parts of you are not good enough, or that those parts of you are going to, that's happening based upon a core belief that you have that you need to address. So ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? If people get those secret parts of myself and I fully express that to them, what are they going to do with it, and how is that going to feel for me? That's a very proactive line of questioning. I call that my resistance process. It's very similar to the work by Byron Katie, where she would ask you what would be good about that feeling and what would be bad if that happened. So I just go into that when I'm thinking, okay, why don't I want to express the secret, deeper parts of myself? What would be bad about that if I did? Okay, what would be the worst thing that could happen if I did? And I start going into those feeling states in a very proactive manner, and I'm feeling them, closing my eyes, envisioning them fully, sinking into them fully, and then I'm going into a surrender process of really allowing that to take me over, and I'm sinking deeply into that, even if it hurts. But then the fun part of what my addition to this process was, when I created my resistance process, I added the two questions: what would be good about that? Okay, that is the fun part, because then you get to look at all the things that might possibly be good about that. Now, if you're in a place where you can't perceive anything good about that, the third question I added to my process of resistance is, what would I stand to learn from this? Okay, that's a deeper question. That will help you, because then you will kind of proactively lose your resistance that's creating the fear of expressing your secret and deeper parts of yourself. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. The question is, and it's more of a statement than a question, but I completely see where she's coming from. She says, as for the authenticity movement, I feel that a lot of young people or new people in the spiritual community misunderstand this and take it to mean that they can just do whatever they can say whatever they want to say, they can do whatever they want to do, and they take it to mean that they can just say whatever they feel about anything and everyone, even if it's, I'm assuming you mean like even if that's disrespectful. And then she said, and then they use their authenticity as an excuse to say whatever they want to say, and to just basically be disrespectful, as the other member of my beautiful spiritual community said it so beautifully. She said, and then they use that as an excuse to be an a-hole. Yeah. I'm not down with that. I don't vibe with that. I need to express that right away, that that is not okay. Authenticity does not give you the space to be an a-hole. I don't like that. I would love to adjust that. I really feel like it is the most disempowering thing, because the reason why I don't like it is because it pulls you to an energy and a space of feeling completely disempowered. When a person comes back and you've been completely authentic, and then a person comes back and they're like, okay, now they're going to be an a-hole. Or if you come at them and they're just doing their thing and you come at them and you're an a-hole and you're like, well, that's just the truth, I'm just telling you the truth. That is my least favorite statement in the authenticity movement right now. That's just the truth. The reason why I don't like that is because truth is relative. You are God's. You are source. So you are connecting to source all the time. You are creating your own reality and the reflections therein all the time. So truth is relative to your perception thereof. So there is no deeper truth involved with humans and how we live, what's good, what's bad. All of that is just duality that we're learning from. That is not the deeper truth of anything. So who are we to say that's just the truth? Who are we to say that's the truth? Because it may be the truth for you, but that doesn't mean that it's the truth for that person. And if that person is not at your level of truth, my suggestion would be to back up from that statement and just say, this is how I perceive it. The truth from my perspective is, then insert the blank, and do it with love. And then if you notice that your truth has harmed them, ask for forgiveness on the spot. Step into a humble, loving place that diffuses the person that you just hurt. Okay? And then you can step in and say, I'm perceiving that what I said just really offended you, and that was not my intent. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And then you just start over. It's as simple as that. That forgiveness energy just causes the love to be there and the trust to return, and you just start over. Okay? Please do not use your authenticity as a weapon. Okay? Keep it in a space of love and respect for all humanity. Every human being on earth deserves it. Every single one. No matter what they've done, they deserve it. Okay? Let's see. Let's ask the next question. Are people ready to live in authenticity? I like the way you spelled that. You spelled it AUTHENTI-city, like it's a place. It's a state of being, absolutely. I like that little play on your words. So are people ready to live in authenticity, or are they still hiding in their elusive shelter? I think humans are right in the middle. I really do. I've noticed that more people are starting to lose their shame in association with authenticity. And even when they're not coming into full conflict resolution, I've noticed that the more people in the spiritual communities lose that definition of guru in the spiritual teaching community, where they're like, that's my master, that's my guru. This person is above me, they have more knowledge than me. The more teachers kind of step on the same level with students, to where there is no teacher-student thing going on. There's just love and humanity and people learning and teaching with each other and for each other and amongst each other, that it will be easier. This is why I stepped into the authenticity movement personally, because it became easier to see all of you grow, and it also became easier for me whenever I got the courage to say, yeah, this is my life, and yeah, I'm not perfect, and yeah, look at my core beliefs, and yeah, I'm going through this and going through that, and it got really personal, and it still is. So that brought me out of that shelter, and the response that I got was overwhelmingly loving, to the extent that I had a hard time receiving it. Sometimes when people send me love and support back, I just sit there and cry. I used to cry because I didn't know how to receive it. Now I cry because I'm so grateful, and I do receive it fully, but I'm so grateful, and sometimes I just get so shocked, in a good way. And it's beautiful to see that amongst the spiritual communities, and it's beautiful to see that amongst humans in general. But are humans ready? 50-50. I don't really know. I mean, in the spiritual communities, I definitely notice people being more and more ready daily, and I'm getting about a 50-50 response. With about half of the human conscious collective being in a place of ego with the spiritual community, with gurus and masters, and do this and do that, and this is right and this is wrong, and this is ethical and this is not. And then the other half of the teachers coming into a full space of authenticity in this movement, and encouraging others to do the same. And it's about half and half right now, in my opinion, from what I've perceived. But in the 3D communities, not so much, with people who haven't really had any access to spirituality at all. They're feeling it. They're coming to me and they're like, I know nothing about spirituality, but I'm so much in a bad place emotionally in my life that I would like to know. They're not ready, but they want to. Like, I see more wantingness to know about authenticity and to try it out. Like they're dipping their toe in the water. That's what I like to call that, just to test the temperature. That's kind of where the 3D community stands. So let's look at some of these other questions here. One of you said this is a tough one because you have to consider other people's feelings, which then makes you have to question if your authentic self is a healthy one, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's going to bring you into such a space of flow for me, I noticed that when I started operating in authenticity, it became more than just about what you're sharing, more than just about are you sharing hard things and emotionally embarrassing things about yourself to the whole world. It became about, okay, what do I want to do right now? What is the most self-loving thing that I want to do right now? What if I give myself permission to not be in a self-loving space right now? What then? And it became a space of questioning every single thing I was feeling and every single thing I was doing, from eating to exercising to just the most recent authenticity flow type of thing that I've been doing lately is driving around. And I'm not driving because I'm in a foreign country and they drive on the opposite side of the road and they scare the shit out of me. So yeah, someone drives me, a close friend drives me, and I'm just like, let's go here, let's go there. I don't know why. She's like, gosh, if my GPS dies, we're going to be fucked. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And we just do it anyway. And we find the most amazing places because authenticity is flow. And it's just like being what you are and who you are and showing what you feel and doing what you're doing in the moment and flowing within that. And Spirit's going to guide you. Source is going to guide you every step of the way. And I've been sharing those authentic experiences with you with my state of flow in Australia right now for the past couple months, and I'm still flowing daily. I'm like, gonna do this, gonna do that. Yeah, not gonna do this now, it changed. That's flow, and that's what authenticity, that's the next step with what authenticity is going to bring you. But in spaces of conflict resolution, absolutely, absolutely it's going to be difficult. Absolutely, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It is a tough one, and face it, face it, face it, face it. It will be worth it. It's going to hurt. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be worth it. Okay. Let's see. Next statement. I love how this movement is bringing us closer and creating deeper bonds. Absolutely. That's all that humanity really wants is understanding and acceptance, because acceptance and understanding are the first steps towards loving each other, and then it opens the space towards self-love, which is what humans are craving right now, because lack of self-love is the deepest problem in the unhealed state of the human conscious collective as we stand currently, in my opinion. So let's see, what else are you saying there? Some of us came from families where we never shared our problems and it was shameful to speak about them. But now that we are open to being authentic, it helps us clear these blocks. Yes, absolutely. But I need to address about that. If you came from a family that still has those blocks, the chances of you stepping into full-on conflict resolution or even if you're not trying to create resolution, but you're just looking for acceptance and an open and authentic sharing where you are authentically sharing something, the chances of them really feeling comfortable with that might be a little small. Okay, so keep your expectations low when you start this out, especially if you haven't fully addressed the core beliefs that cause you to feel shame and expression amongst your family. You're going to get the same reflection back of them not accepting you because there might be a lack of acceptance in yourself. But when you come to a state where you are going to them and you're like, you know what, I'm going to authentically and lovingly share what I feel. And if they accept it, they do. And if they don't, they don't. And I'm going to feel good about it. You will begin to see that their reflections change. And even when they disagree, they might be like, you see them sitting there reacting and they're like, and they're not being so offensive anymore. This is when you step into the next state of manifestation and healing and integration, when you're like, okay, they're not quite really accepting that. They're really not being loving, but they're not being a-holes either. That's flow. That's the next step. So take it for what it is and tell the universe thank you and keep trying, okay? But that's normally the state that it goes in, is that they don't accept it at first. Okay, so let's see. Another person said, some people believe that being authentic is a must. So they force themselves to do it because someone posted a random picture with one random phrase being written on it. Being authentic means to be naked of all of your feelings, to spit out all of your dirty secrets. Really? Does it mean that? Does it mean that for you? That's okay if it does. I'm going to keep going with what you said. For example, if you saw a dog with a nice butt, okay, I'm not even repeating what you said after that, and you felt aroused by it, say it. Take it out of your system, because maybe in a few months you're going to have hybrid babies in Smithsonian. Okay, for the sake of authenticity, I read your comment, and I will authentically state in response that I'm feeling really embarrassed. And that's a little out there, and it's hilarious. And knowing this person, you are completely such a funny, amazing, and somewhat, it kind of makes me blush a little bit when you talk in your fully authentic state, because I'm like, wow, you just said that and you have no shame, and I love it. That's hilarious. So yeah, being authentic definitely means being, naked, with your feelings. But um, you might want to consider, does that level of authenticity, who are you sharing it with? Will it offend them? Like, for example, in that particular instance, I would not walk up and use that expression with, say, a priest or someone who would find that disrespectful. But I can't perceive that I would ever get aroused from the nice butt of a dog in your example. But if I were generally feeling aroused, I might share that maybe with my sister or my best friend if it were towards another human. So yeah, that would be, you have to take your levels of authenticity. If you're comfortable with that, by all means do it. But please consider if it's going to offend someone. And if it is going to offend someone, can you use the beauty and the human language to beautifully and artfully form your authenticity in a way that would make that person also feel safe with your authenticity? That would be my suggestion. Take it out of your system, but other people deserve the right to feel fully safe in your expression of authenticity. So, but yeah, hybrid babies in the Smithsonian. Wow, that is a great expression. I'm going to be remembering that all day. Okay, next statement. Being authentic is learning to understand oneself and to follow the feeling signature of any given moment by being honest in every positive and negative action, words, feelings, and interactions. Yes, it's admitting to being. When one is not afraid to be authentic, others will see it and trust that they need to be authentic with themselves. You bring an excellent point to the table. It's hard to be authentic if you don't know who you are. Some people ask me questions and they're like, you're supposed to know. You're a spiritual teacher. I just asked you a question about yourself and you don't know. What's up with that? And I just have to authentically state, because the question was, what do you want? That was the most recent question that has come up to me. What is your desire? And I went into this space where I said, oh, I don't have wants or desires. And the person kind of looked at me because she knew it was bullshit. And she said, go deeper, please. That was her level of authenticity back, to pull me to a space where she knew that it wasn't that I was not being authentic. I genuinely did not know myself. I did not know that answer. So I had to admit that, gosh, I don't know. And she's like, that's fine. That's fine that you don't know. It's good that you're being authentic. Go deeper. And then the moment I knew that she wasn't going to judge me, for being a spiritual teacher but not knowing what I want, I dropped into it and I said, I want to be a yogi. I still don't know what the hell that means specifically to me. So the moment it came out of my mouth, I said, no, wait, I don't know what that means. Don't. We were in the middle of a new moon ceremony, and she was going to put the paper into the fire. And I said, oh, no, don't put the paper into the fire. I don't know what that means. And she goes, no, you do. You said that from a fully authentic level. You want that, So it's something that if you're deep in your soul, you can pull out wants that you didn't even know that you had, okay? But yeah, be authentic that you don't know. Be authentic with yourself and go deeper. Go deeper, because it's hard to be authentic if you just don't know yourself, okay? Let's see, next question, how to be authentic without hurting feelings. That is why I created the process, the boundary process that I was explaining earlier, which I call the compliment sandwich. Start with love or a compliment or a blessing, and then head towards what you need to say. You don't have to have a boundary in that process to use this process. So you start with love, a compliment, or a blessing, which is, I love you, this is what I appreciate you, or may you be blessed, or whatever blessing you think is positive that applies to that person. And then you would state what you feel. However, I feel this way about you, or about me and you, or about whatever it is. And then you say, would you please consider what I'm saying? You ask them a question, would they consider that? And then you say, I love you. You end it with love and gratitude, okay? So that is how you do that. That is how you come into an authentic space without hurting people's feelings. That's how you keep it respectful. Let's see if you have any further questions. Someone says, I love your videos, but this topic is so confusing to me. But I'm in because I want to learn. That's good. That's authentic. I love your expression. Thank you. I think I know what you're saying, but perhaps I say it or think it differently. Are you saying something different than to speak what's in your heart? No, I'm saying speak exactly what's in your heart, but do it with love and respect that brings other people into a full space of loving authenticity. My level of authenticity and my take of the authenticity movement is not to hurt or attack or shame. If you're going to say something, ask yourself these questions. Would it shame that person? Would it attack that person? Would it make that person feel unsafe? If the answer is yes to any of the above, change the way you are saying it so that they can at least feel safety. And even if they disagree, it might break the barrier. If they feel safety, even if they disagree, if you're saying it's safety, there's a space of acceptance and love in that, where you're offering a space of acceptance between the two of you. I notice authenticity involves that. But when it's just about you, not that it ever really is fully in this universe, but when it's just you wanting to be authentic with the whole world, be what's in your heart. That's not about what you're speaking, it's about what you're showing. Okay, authenticity is also about what you're being and what you're showing that's of you. Okay, so I really, gosh, I enjoyed this series. I enjoyed this one so much, and later when I get home today, I'm probably going to blog about it. So I love you guys. Again, if you want to be a part of this Raw Uncut series that we're going to be doing indefinitely for a very long time, if you want to ask questions, you can join my Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Aura Reader. I'm Pamela Aaralyn, and I am you. I am not your guru. I'm not your master. I am you, and you're me, and we're just humans. That's how I really feel. That is me being authentic with you. I love you. Namaste.